This week on an AI-powered TT show, Apple is using AI to give Siri vision, AI is creating a romantic comedy, and Bill Gates is worried about AI taking his job. We take a look at ASUS's amazing new 8K display, PS5 Pro specs confirmed, regulatory pressure mounts against AI firms, the best-looking Unreal Engine 5 game is here, and some GTA 6 rumors may have come to life. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the TT show. My name is Jack Connor. I'm a hardware editor over at Tweaktown, and today I'm joined by my co-host,
Costa Andriadis, gaming hardware editor at Tweaktown.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Like the whole of the internet, it seems. I'm watching the Fallout show on Amazon. People are so positive on it.
I've heard that it's very good. I think you told me to watch it last week or maybe in a private message or something like that. But I did do a little bit of coverage on Todd Howard talking about, I think it was a potential Elder Scrolls TV show. But he kind of threw a wet blanket on it.
They're saying that there's no plans for an Elder Scrolls show, but you know, there were no plans for a Fallout show until it happened.
Exactly right.
The Fallout show is pretty good. I would say it's more entertaining than the Last of Us HBO series, which was super popular and, you know, kind of like that was like a video game adaptation that everybody was like, oh, you know, video games can be, you know, can create, you know, good TV or good movies instead of, you know, the cheesy stuff we got in the 90s. And but the Fallout, what makes it good is the I guess the tone. Like it has like the random over the top gore. Like like there's a perk in Fallout 3 and 4 like which adds nothing to your build or power. You know, it's called Bloody Mess, where like when you kill enemies and then randomly they'll just explode into giblets or, you know, body parts and gore.
Giblets.
That's like an old Quake term. Gibbs.
So it's
so then it like it doesn't
captured
have like it doesn't have like that specifically like thing, but it has like, you know, like full on R-rated gore.
Oh,
but
awesome!
Comical violence though, so it's the tone is like dark, serious, but mainly light and fun. And it has like the music from the game, and it looks like Fallout 4 basically come to life.
Are you happy with it overall?
I've only seen the first 3 episodes because people were going absolutely wild. So like early reviews were all unanimously saying it's a great, you know, it's like one of the best video game adaptations. It lives up to the Fallout, blah blah blah, and then social media was going wild with it. Like, you know, Fallout's great, the TV show. Yeah. So I was so as soon as I started, I'm like, oh, so this is going to be amazing. And it was good. you know, like when you set your expectations slightly too high. But then people are saying that like the back half of the season is when the story gets really good.
How many episodes are out right now?
The whole thing, like Amazon dropped all the episodes at once. So 8 episodes. Awesome. So they didn't do like a week by week thing, which is what people were expecting. And they just dropped them all. And they released it like a day early as well last week.
I like the lead actress in it, Ella Purnell. She did. I watched this series that I'm not sure if it is garbage or if it's good. Called Yellow Jackets. It's about.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, it's a good show.
Yeah, but it's also garbage at the same time because there's such garbage moments that happen in there where you're like, okay, see, this is a slight derail, but apologize for all the avid tech listeners to this podcast. But the first thing that I would have done if I was ever stranded anywhere is find high ground and find out where I was. No one did that until like the second season. They all just stayed in that little weird cabin and waited for like paranormal stuff to happen, and then there was all that woo-woo stuff with the girl and the blood sacrifices. That no one checked a mountain. No one, not a single person went up to a mountain.
Survival skills, really though. Like my general rule is that like people are usually quite dumb. So when
maybe I
don't
give
act,
people more credit than what they.
no, I don't, because if they don't act intelligently in a TV show, like might be slightly annoyed, but I don't think it's like a plot hole, you know?
Oh, it's not a plot hole. It's just I just think it's weak writing that no one thought to get to a higher spot. No one climbed a tree, Costa, to look out and be like, "Where are we?"
Yeah, you try. That's fair enough.
So there was small things like that. However, the Ella Purnell, she was fantastic in the show, and actually most of the actors that were in Yellow Jackets were really good. And it had the girl from Two and a Half Men, Rose, that keeps climbing over the balcony. She's in it. But yeah, I've heard really good things about Ella Purnell in the Fallout show as well.
She's really good. And it's also got Walton Goggins.
Oh, is that David Goggins' brother?
No, Walton Goggins is. If you see his face, he was in Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
He was in Justified. He's in Vice Principals, the comedy with Danny McBride. Righteous Gemstones, the new show on HBO as well.
He's in Django.
He's in Django. That's it. Yeah.
I love that guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. He plays the ghoul. So he plays like, so he plays basically a ghoul, which is like Fallout's zombies in a way, I guess. They're basically just irradiated. But like sentient ghouls, the ghouls that aren't feral in Fallout are the ones that still have their personality and stuff. And they're usually like just hundreds of years old. So they're basically survivors from basically ageless survivors from like when the bombs dropped. So like, so in the show, he's a ghoul and he's like hundreds of years old. And he's basically just like a bounty hunter, like a heartless sort of like gunslinger, awesome. Just like a Western type of, he plays that sort of man with no name.
He's got a
type of thing where it's like, oh, he's just so cool that you like him, even though he just blows people away. And he has like his gun, which is kind of like explosive rounds, kind of like a Fallout thing, where when he shoots people, they just like, like, you know, if he shoots the arm, then like the arm will just like explode.
Yeah, giblets, Costa, giblets.
And there's so many nods to the game. Like, you know, like one of the first like weapons that like somebody's using is like the junk gun. The junk gun in Fallout is like basically all the junk that you pick up, you use it as ammunition. So like, there's somebody like firing and you see like an old, you know, like a doll of like a baby, like a toy, like, you know, like just like get lodged in somebody, and you're like, is that the junk gun? And then you see him holding like the big junk gun.
That's awesome. Directed by cool Jonathan Nolan, Christopher Nolan's brother.
Yeah, who wrote Memento, and he wrote Interstellar and The Prestige.
Yeah, well, he helped writing on
and
Interstellar
Dark Knight as well. Yeah,
The Prestige, Westworld.
That's right. Yeah. So it's got a good pedigree, and it's super entertaining. It's fun. So you should watch it.
I'm gonna have to check it out. Now that we've got our guilty pleasure out of the way, let's get into our other guilty pleasures.
Our AI-powered episode.
Our AI-powered episode. This week we are... first, we should apologize to the listeners. This is going to be a AI-powered... artificial intelligence has invaded this week's episode, and we should start off
corner of the industry.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Vacuum cleaners now have AI. Let's start off with a story that we missed last week, and that was Apple's new AI system can see in quotation marks and could be a game changer for Siri. Since last week, we have had some more updates on this story. It's a bit more around iOS 18. So if you have been following along with the news, Apple is preparing to release iOS 18, which will come out with the next iPhone, so the iPhone 16. And internally, Apple is calling this... Hold on, I'm just making sure I get my links up here. It's the biggest update to iOS ever. That's what they're calling it internally. So, as with all Apple
That's
leaks...
because it's AI, right? Because like every company is like touting like this is the biggest... like, you know, I reckon like Microsoft with Windows 12, because like whenever that launches is going to have so much AI in it. they're going to say this is the biggest upgrade for Windows ever.
Yep, of course. Yeah, it's all corporate jargon. But regardless, I am very excited for these features. So what we've learned so far, and as with all Apple insider knowledge, it all comes from our lovely friend Mark Gurman over at Bloomberg on his Power On newsletter. A very credible, known Apple insider. So iOS 18 is going to introduce a suite of new AI features. It's going to revamp Siri. It's going to make her much more intelligent. Add new AI features for Apple Music. All of this is quite vague, unfortunately. There's no like specifics on how this is going to play out. But we do know that there's going to be AI integration into iWork apps such as Keynote and Pages. I'm guessing this is all, if I was to guess at how they're going to implement this and make it easy for users, is Siri will now, instead of being this feature that you ask questions like, where is the closest chicken shop, or where's the closest petrol station, etc. I mean, these are the questions that I ask Siri.
That's such an Australian question. Where's the closest chicken shop?
Yeah, 100%. I did that last night. That's what I'm saying.
So you were just like, where are we? Like, it's like, Siri, where's the closest chicken shop?
Show me the closest 5 chicken shops. Yes, I'm guessing it's all going to play into Siri. So it's going to be more like if you ask or if you say, hey, take a note in Keynote or Pages, they're all going to work into Siri, if you know what I mean. She's going to be more of an AI assistant that is integrated into, I'm guessing, all of your Apple products. I'm not sure on the specifics on if we're going to see these AI features in like the Apple Watch or something like that. Like, will I be able to go to my Apple Watch and then input like a note here and then it goes onto my phone? Like, I'm sure there's going to be some connectivity between devices.
I think it's going to be interesting because if you look at Copilot, which is already integrated into Windows 11 if you've got the latest update or version of Windows, and it continually updates if you got like beta releases. But like Copilot is a pretty good tool to be able to just like, use generative AI stuff as well as integrating it with like the OS. But with Apple always doing things differently or always presenting something in a way that feels fresh, even though the functionality may not be brand new, it'll just be interesting to see how they adopt it, because you've got like, Google is already using it quite a bit extensively on Pixel stuff with like Magic Eraser and all the Magic AI, Gemini AI stuff for like photos and videos and stuff like that. And they're going to integrate it into everything else as well. So it'll be interesting to see if Apple can differentiate or if it's just going to be the same as what everybody else is doing, if you know what I mean? Because it's kind of like a race now between Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Meta, I guess.
Yeah.
For adding AI into all their day-to-day apps and services and things like that.
Yeah. Where I think it gets quite interesting is Apple positioned itself, I think it was, can't remember what iOS it was. I think it might have been 15 or something like that. Do you remember when Apple rolled out its feature to its users that there was a prompt that came up that said you can choose whether apps track your data or not, and it essentially cut small businesses that were using
yes, that's right. Yeah. They added it.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
Yeah, so they added an option. I think I'm assuming it was like a regulatory EU sort of thing where you have to, because, like all these companies by default, apps were basically had access to all the data on your phone essentially, right? And then it's the same across all devices, right? So then they added an option. It's, like hide, basically keep.
Users can opt out.
Yeah, you just opt out. And then so many people opted out. So then harvesting data apps that were doing that or services that were reliant on that would then obviously had to find other avenues of whatever revenue that they were gaining from that.
Yeah, I've got two close friends that run a clothing business. It's a small startup business, but it's been going for quite some time, and they were making some decent money during their business, and then Apple rolled out their update, and it cut their revenue by like 60%, purely because everyone chose to opt out, and that meant
ads. Yeah,
that meant Meta wasn't able to harvest the data from their Facebook ads and all of that just tanked, and then they had to look for other avenues, and they found it on like TikTok, and then they went a more creator route where they were hiring creators to promote their products. So they're doing well now, but that just illustrates how devastating this was to small businesses. What is going to be interesting is that AI, for it to be even remotely useful, needs data on people. On the user. So Apple has positioned itself, its brand, and this was such a monumental change, where it said to its users, you get to choose whether your data is being tracked. Now, I don't know how that's going to work for an AI that is meant to act as a personal assistant.
Well,
that's why it's looking to purchase Gemini.
You have to opt in, right? Like it's kind of like Copilot. So let's say you want to use all of Copilot's features, which is basically scraping all your OneDrive documents and cataloging your files and being able to optimize your operating system. Like you have to say yes, like allow it to do that. And Apple's AI will be the same. It's like, hey, do you want, like how they word it is going to be obviously a question of, how honest are they going to be with what it's doing? Like, like I doubt it's going to be like tick yes if you want. Okay, so Siri is going to, like have a long list of like check your photos, emails, blah blah blah. This, like these 50 things. Would you like it to do that? To use all its features. In order to use all its features, Siri needs to do these 50 things, which is basically have access and scrape and everything on your phone, or basically they might just word it as like how they used to. It's like, yes, opt in to access your phone's data, just like a catch-all.
I think they're going to have to be more specific because they made themselves so transparent with it previously with that devastating iOS update. I think it's much harder for Apple to then turn around and be like, okay, if you want to access, say the new iPhone 16, right? That the main selling point for this device is going to be AI. It's going to have a dedicated AI piece of hardware in it. I'm not sure what they're necessarily calling it. And they, at WWDC on June 10, they are going to be unveiling iOS 18 with all of these features. Now, I'm not sure about what features will be exclusive to the iPhone 16 and what features will trickle down into the iPhone 15, like the one that I have here. However, I would bet on the side that most of them are going to be exclusive to the iPhone 16. So for them to sell that device, they then need to sell all these AI features, but then they also need to go, you need to opt in to your thing now.
Yeah.
You need to be tracked. So, which is the complete opposite of what they did. I don't know how many years ago it was. It was quite recently. It was only like 2-3 years ago. I think it's going to be a brand hit in some way. Some people are going to go, wait, didn't you give us the like for me to want to buy the new iPhone 16, I now have to give up all my personal data.
Yes, but it's also like it's affecting everything, like from PCs. Like, this year is the year of the AI PCs. So it doesn't necessarily like mean that PCs are really different outside of the addition of like NPUs and AI processors as guaranteed, because AI hardware has been in GPUs for most PCs for many years now. But like the thing is that this is the early stage of AI. So, the next app, iPhones and iOS and Windows this year with Copilot and stuff like that. All of this stuff is still online and cloud based, right? And Google's AI, because the way that they're rating these NPUs in on your hardware is that it'll be able to do some, but it's not going to be able to run these AI models on your local machine, right? It's all run in the cloud, and the AI.
Not this one.
So the AI tops performance. Well, they're expecting there's no guarantee that the next Apple chips are going to be powerful enough to run this stuff locally. That is
the latest news.
That's the expectation. Yeah. Okay. Well, that might be the case, but if you're looking at Windows PCs, it's probably not going to be unless you're leveraging your GPU, which your GPU is going to be able to have enough power. But CPUs and APUs and stuff like that for tablets and laptops and whatever else, their AI performance isn't going to be at the level where you'll be able to run Copilot natively or the Windows AI until potentially later this year or next year sometime, because it just requires too much power, and then it's all just going to be run over the cloud. And my point with that is that not only are you saying, yes, I want to use this, and obviously it's going to need all your data to use it, to use all of its features, it's all going to be cloud-based as well. So all that data is going to be going back and forth over the cloud, and there's already been breaches with AI, and AI models can be hacked. There's been, there's a lot of stuff that's beta, right? So you can't, a security flaw in a beta is not, they messed up, or this is a massive problem. Whenever you use anything in beta, there's obviously it's not 100%. So, but, if there are security flaws or things like that, it's a little bit sketchier, I think, with the fact if you're just running everything over the cloud. Being able to run AI models on a local PC, it's fine. For example, if you had, running whatever GPT
just
stuff,
basic image generation.
Yeah, or NVIDIA's, you can run it locally, and that had a security flaw, but it's been fixed. But if you run it locally, then there's no there's less of an issue, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with that. Just on running it locally, so it is funny that you said that, because the latest news from Gurman is Apple won't have a cloud processing component in the company's large language model, at least for the first suite of AI features. So to me, that says that eventually down the line, there will be a cloud processing component. But I'm guessing that means that WWDC, Apple is going to unveil this new suite. They're going to say you don't need to worry about any of what you just explained, because it's all running locally on device. I do think that is a selling point, and will make them saying to their users, you can enable Siri and all of its features now, because you don't need to worry about anyone harvesting your data, because it's all on local device. Yeah,
that can be a selling feature of if it's run completely locally. So Microsoft is going to do the same thing, where Copilot is going to have an option to run it all locally. But the problem is also battery life. That's where it gets an issue. So there's going to be an option for. It's weird that they would have run it entirely locally, because that's going to just chew into battery life. Compared to does this mean that the next iPhones or next MacBooks are going to have a shorter battery life if you got AI enabled?
It's a very good question.
That seems strange. If you were to do that.
They can't go backwards on battery life. People are they haven't upgraded from 16 hours. I don't even know how long.
Yeah. And then
if they come out and say 12 hours if you enable Siri, and all of her features, and that's going to stink.
Yeah. And let's just say you could get an extra 4 hours of battery life if it was run on the cloud. And then somebody would be like, I want to run it on the cloud. If it gives me that amount, that gives me that much more battery.
Yeah.
And Apple saying, no, it's just locally only. That seems strange to me.
Or maybe that's a way for people to opt in. They get people to opt into the cloud.
Yeah, like it'll be a choice. Is it like what Microsoft is going to do with Windows, or what like Intel and the Ryzen and all NVIDIA GPUs, mobile GPUs, all that sort of stuff that's going to be run Copilot, is that when you're on battery, there'll be an option to either run it locally or on the cloud, because running it locally just means the NPU is going to be it's going to be going wild.
Yeah, 100%. Just touching more on the cloud, Apple is still in talks with Google, OpenAI, and I'm guessing Meta as well, to implement cloud based AI features into iOS 18. Now, the specifics are, there's a whole bunch of ambiguity around it, but I'll just read something from my article here. Moreover, iOS 18 isn't expected to include Apple's own AI-powered chatbots such as ChatGPT, but Gurman writes that Apple has held meetings with the aforementioned companies about potential partnerships that would integrate their chatbots into iOS 18. So there's potential that we will see a ChatGPT integrated straight into iOS. And Gemini, which would mean cloud-based
deal for. I mean, that'd be like that makes sense, right? Like, why wouldn't you partner with OpenAI if you're Apple?
Yeah, I'm thinking if they're going to go with anyone, it would be OpenAI, but that kind of gets us more into the legalities around all of these large language models, which is something that we have touched on in previous episodes, but now it really does seem to be heating up. Like there is,
let's jump into that story.
Yeah, let's get over to there. So here's the headline: regulatory pressure mounts on AI firms to disclose copyright sources. So we have talked about in previous episodes that there is no public knowledge about how any of these large language models that are powering, which is for those that don't know, the underlying technology powering these generative AI tools such as ChatGPT or Dolly or Copilot even. Well, Copilot runs GPT, which is made by OpenAI. So
so this is where all the, like when you talk about like hundreds of thousands of GPUs and all these sort of massive data centers and AI going wild. Basically, it's all about these AI models and the training, right? So it's like feeding it, and it's a constant thing, right? There's like there's new versions that are released, but the AI model can run on your PC, sure, but like to train the AI model on your PC would take 10,000 years off a single GPU, versus the high-tech stuff, or like what makes AI so impressive today is the fact that they'll be able to train it at such a scale. And what that means is that the question mark is then, what are you training it on? And that's what this whole thing's about. It's like, well, you got ChatGPT, you got Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, you got generative AI. So AI can generate a document for you, it can generate an image for you, it can generate a video for you. But it's not doing that from nothing, right? It has to basically just train on existing stuff. So like AI doesn't create something from, like I said, nothing. It creates something based on human input.
Yeah, where did you get the data to train these large language models? That's the big question that no one knows the answer to, except for these companies, of course. And I really do think this fire started it got a whole lot bigger, and people started to question it a whole lot more after OpenAI CTO Mira Murati. She's the chief technology officer over at OpenAI. She was asked in an interview if the upcoming text to video AI tool called Sora was created using content acquired from YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. Murati's response was troubling because she said she didn't know.
Okay. I think so, there's no way, so for example, like that Sora, right? You can create
unbelievable video content.
Believable videos, but like period stuff, human forms, like cities and stuff like that. So like what's that based on? Like they're not like open, like, you know, like think of it this way, right? So you got like Google Maps, right? Now Google Maps is an app, or Google Earth. So that's Google sending satellites into orbit and photographing the planet. Google sending vehicles with 360-degree cameras into every street on the planet, more or less. To take photos, but not only to take full photos, but then to do it periodically and to update that. So it's using its own data, right? And that's what these apps are based on. That's not AI, but then if you look at AI, it's like, okay, so I can type in, I want to see a knight that looks similar to Aragorn from The Lord of the Rings, and he's holding a sword, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, so it generates that image. So where is it getting all that? What's it being trained on? You could almost, like, you would put money on it to say that, yes, the AI has been fed the extended editions of Lord of the Rings, you know. It's
God damn it.
It's trained on every, like, cheesy fantasy movie from the 80s. Fan art from DeviantArt, right? Like, you know, people's personal stuff, anything that you can scrape online. Photos that were like Getty images, like, you know, like those iStock and all that sort of stuff. Like they're suing companies because they know for a fact that their photos have been scraped because the AI is generating images that are close or pretty much, you know, like close approximations on it. So this is where it becomes like, it's like, well, you know, if you look at Sora, and like one of the examples was like a snowy Japanese village, blah, 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 or, you know, like Tokyo at sunset, or, you know, neon skies, and it looks like Tokyo. It's like, did OpenAI send videographers out to all these cities to capture footage to train its AI models?
Absolutely not.
So that's like, you know, like it's absolutely not. So like, you know, it's a different, it's the wild, wild west. And that's when you've got like this, like this article now with like US congressmen and governments looking to step in to create this act or that act. And they're just like 5 years behind, right? So like OpenAI, and it's almost like a race, right? They're going to race to scrape and train everything on before any law's in place. So whether or not, I think at this point it's almost like moot, because like if it's been trained on copyright material, it, like, sure, they can kind of prove it, but can they really? Like, you know,
proving it is going to be the hard part.
There's no precedent, and there's no law in place, so it's like it's almost like they've got free reign to do whatever they want at the moment.
Yeah, and this is where we get to April 9, and US Congressman Adam Schiff is attempting to force AI companies to outline any copyrighted data used to train AI models. So this is called the Generative AI Copyright Disclosure Act, and if passed, would require AI companies to file all relevant data used to train their AI models with the Register of Copyrights at least 30 days before the tool is introduced to the public. Now this bill, if passed, would be retroactive as well, which means OpenAI, OpenAI, 100% it should be. OpenAI would have to come out and say where they got all their data from. Now, also, what is a really nice specific of this bill, if it's passed, the bill wouldn't prevent AI creators from using copyrighted works, but instead implement transparency on which materials have been used to create the tool and where they have been acquired from. So it wouldn't stop people from doing it. It just enforces the transparency. Yeah. Which is, I think, is the right way to go about it, because then the copyright, then the Register of Copyrights can follow up with any what would it be, violations of the new law, right?
That's right, and it will fall under like the MCA, like the copyright laws and things like that, which are pretty ironclad in the US. But also as well, there are companies like Google and Nvidia, and I'm not even sure of OpenAI, but like Meta, and like with their like AI models, they have ethical policies, and they're already like trying to proactively do this sort of stuff. It's like, you know, like tech companies, like whenever there's like some new thing, like whatever it is, like they'll create their own internal policy to show the government. So when like a government goes and say, hey, what are you doing? Like in this sort of case, so then they'll kind of say like, well, we have, you know, we're doing it right, et cetera, et cetera. So there are like AI models that are being trained. I think it's like it's a bit lessened now, like because it was the wild west when it was like ChatGPT and DALL-E and stuff like that, and Midjourney, those early versions of it were just trained on any data and you could tell. But like now, like, you know, like Adobe's got a deal, so there's like a generative AI. They got a generative AI that's trained on all of their stock. You know, Getty Images has one. So like, you know, it's gonna be like a case of like licensing. Like I don't think like people or companies like this will be fined like $50 million, whatever. It'll just be a case of them like paying money to like license. It will just like force license fees and things like that for companies to like come to agreements when it comes to using copyrighted info.
Well, the New York Times is already suing OpenAI for their articles being scraped in the use of ChatGPT 4. Now, I don't know how this is. It's a lot easier to, like you were saying, ask a generative model to create an image of, I don't know, Mario or a fantasy character holding a Aragon sword, and then have a couple Nintendo characters in the background. It's easy to identify that they're copyrighted IP. Like that's clearly Mario in the background. That's clearly Viggo Mortensen playing. You know, it's easy to see that. I don't know how this works for text to text. Like how does the New York Times prove that an article is stolen from them unless it's exclusive news? Maybe that's the case.
But not even like.
But then it's been rewritten somewhere else.
The only way you can prove it is if you have evidence of them using that data, or if either OpenAI's disclosed it, or you've got information leaked that shows that's happening. Because it, like you said, it's difficult because it's not the fact that even if New York Times had an exclusive, right? Then 50 other publications will pick it up. The Free Press, AFP, and like Reuters and all that sort of stuff will pick things up. People will comment on it freely as well, and then have an opinion that's similar. So like it becomes like, I don't know, like you said, like I don't know how you prove that unless you just, the only way to prove it is to force OpenAI to disclose whether they have or not.
Yeah, and there'd have to be a paper trail of some kind. Or like a data trail or a digital fingerprint trail from OpenAI going over to the New York Times and right click and saving their article. Like, I don't, you know, just save as PDF and then they input that into the GPT large language model. They would have to do something like that. I can't imagine like this court case playing out where the New York Times is just yelling at the judge, well, how did OpenAI get this story? And then the judge will be like, well, you know, this story has been around. It's been reported on by 50 different websites. Like, how do you know that they didn't get it from them?
All that stuff is copyrighted as well. So then, but like, right, it's.
But then you got like freedom of the press as well. So you are able to talk about. Yeah, I don't know. It gets very convoluted, and I think these types of stories, and it's only going to mount more against OpenAI and any of these companies that are building these models, except for Google, I think, because Google has shamelessly scraped everyone's data, and Meta for like everyone knows that Google is just scraping away. And no one cares. Because, well, you know, people do care, but people keep using Google.
Yeah, this will be like a tangent, but like, I'll just say it briefly, is that like in now, like because people are growing up in the age of social media and targeted ads and things like that, where it's normal, it's been normalized. It's only like when it comes to like things like privacy, it becomes like a priority. The when you look at the population, like the older people are, it's like privacy goes up the list, whereas younger people could care less because it's so integrated.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. Yeah, it's got to be the big companies like Adobe, the New York Times. It's going to be gaming companies, like where I think we talked about it in a previous episode. Like, wait until there is some kind of AI that can make video, like very rudimentary video games, but it is using the assets of that are in Unreal Engine,
or even like, using the gameplay design,
or gameplay like, design, or something like that.
Like, give me a game like Tomb Raider, exactly the same but different characters or something like that, and then it just gives you the same mechanics, but like it's all different art and things like that. It's like, well, is that gameplay design, is that is that covered under anything? And probably not, because like mechanics, like Nintendo likes to patent like gameplay mechanics, and there's companies that do it as well. Like there was that Lord of the Rings game, Shadow of Mordor, if you remember that game.
Oh yes, yep.
Brilliant game. Like it has this system called the Nemesis system, right?
Yeah, I love it.
So like it's amazing. So it's an open world game, kind of like Assassin's Creed, but because of the Nemesis system, you got all these like big bad orcs, and if you clear this camp and you mess with this orc, then they start hating you because of what you're doing, and then dynamically that orc become, or like then they like the Nemesis system basically dynamically creates enemies and villains based on what you do in the game. And it's like this cool thing. It's like where if you killed something and then they go like, hey, you
or they kill you,
or they kill you, and then
they get stronger,
come back and they remember you, and then it's like, I killed you last time, I'm going to kill you again. And it's only because they killed you. Yeah, that's right. So it remembers. That system was patented. So it's not in any other game because it's protected.
Wow. So okay, I didn't know that.
That's an actual gameplay mechanic that's protected by a patent.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Which is a shame because it was such a cool mechanic that it would have been awesome to see it in so many other games, but like developers can't copy it because
that does suck, actually.
It works, and there's only one way it could work. Like the way it works is patented.
Yeah, that does suck. So that means they would have to pay. I'm guessing it's the developer.
Yeah, it's Warner Brothers, basically.
Yeah, Warner Brothers, of course. Yep. Yeah. No, we're going to get into some dicey territory when this makes its way over to game development, because people are immediately going to steal assets from their favorite games and then use that to build their own. Like it's going to get so dicey,
and it's also going to get so bizarre. Let's segue into a fun story. I don't know if you saw this, right? So TCL, Chinese display maker. They make TVs, they make monitors, and they're pretty huge for like affordable budget TVs for the most part. But they make some high end stuff. So they've got a streaming service, right, called TCL TV Plus. Like because everybody's got a streaming service. Of course. If you got one of their TVs, it's an app. And so like every other massive company, they're creating content for their streaming service. Some of it's going to be traditional, but they're doing AI generated content.
So they've got bizarre.
A movie. I think it's going to be a short film. It's called Next Stop Paris. It's an AI generated romantic comedy. It's releasing this summer. There's a 60-second trailer. Now, if you watch the 60-second trailer, it looks bad, right? It doesn't look good. Like if you watch it and then you see like the female protagonist, like her face kind of like looks.
It morphs.
It looks different in the different scenes, like almost completely different, like a different person, but it's the same character apparently.
Yeah. Oh, this is hilarious.
So this is like the first, right? So this is like, you can see how this is going to evolve. So this looks like trash, like you said.
This is schlock.
Yeah. So basically, it's called Next Stop Paris. And in the article I wrote, it's basically like a Hallmark Channel or a Netflix movie starring Lindsay Lohan. One of those cheesy, like it's Z grade anyway, right? Like these budget rom-coms. So it's using AI, and the trailer says it's an AI-powered love story. TCL calls it a early experiment bringing tech and creative together in a hybrid entertainment format. And it's using custom AI models and technology from Stable Diffusion. So basically, the actual story isn't written by AI. So the story is written by TCL executives, I think, and the actual voice actors are real people. But the thing is that like Chris Regina, Chief Content Officer, and Daniel Smith, Chief Creative Officer at TCL, wrote the story. And it looks pretty bad. Like, so obviously we're playing the trailer now. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link in the description. You got to check it out because it just looks like
Reese, freeze frame on that shot of her floating head that's transparent in the sky that's next to the Eiffel Tower. That is hilarious. that head right there is so funny.
The way they talk about it.
And then that is a different girl that's in the next shot.
No, it's the same character, right?
Yeah, I know, but that is a different person.
Yeah, so I got a little digging on it, and like I just was checking like some different places that were covering it, and like some interviews with the TCL people, and they said like that's a problem, is that having a consistent character with generative AI is an issue because you're generating these scenes, right? So the AI doesn't know that it's all part of the same movie, quote unquote, where the lighting or cinematography has to be consistent. So like, I think it's something we talked about ages ago, is like creating a whole movie with AI. It's going to be difficult because of the consistency. So the issue here is that the character looks different every time because you have to spit in what you want the character to look like, or you have to use generative AI.
Oh my God.
But the way they talk about it is so like dystopian. It's like story will be the heart of everything we do. We are empowering creators and storytellers to use this new technology so the human experience is enriched, and we believe that creatives, capital C, with limitless imagination will drive endless innovation. We view Next Stop Paris as an early experiment, and we're excited to see how it's received in the town square. I think it's going to be poorly. I think it's going to be mocked endlessly. But it's basically the first, right? Like, how long do you think before we see, like, let's say, like, like Netflix has all those cheesy Christmas movies, right? Like every year there's like 50 of them.
Yeah.
And they're all just like low budget. Girl moves to small town, man moves to small town, finds the true meaning of Christmas, falls in love, blah, blah, blah. And there's heaps of them, right? The Hallmark Channel has them. So what if there's a generative AI model? Because there's like there's hundreds of these movies, right? And it's just, and then if an AI model is trained on just these movies, it'll be able to generate one because they're schlock anyway. They're cheesy. Yeah, they could just like churn them out.
What if like Warner Bros or these big filmmaking studios and stuff like that, they decided to feed all of their IP into an AI, and then they would just pump out, like you were saying, cheesy Christmas movies because they own 50 of them. And then they just have, but then you've got the likeness of all the actors that you got to deal with. Yeah, I don't know. You might have to, this is going to be weird.
The thing is, you can do like deep fakes and stuff. It's only a matter of time. But like generative AI as an additive for like, certain special effects shots or things like that, like, like, is going to be here very, very soon, if not already.
Yeah, definitely.
But this seems premature. Like if you watch the 60-second trailer, like you're like, I've seen an AI generated romantic comedy. Like, and also as well, like there's nothing funny.
There's nothing. No, but
I don't know that's how you can also call it a rom-com, right?
That's also the choice to go with a rom-com is
because they're cheesy.
I think is mad. I think they should have gone for like just a stock standard action short film, or something that can really show off the impressive qualities of the AI, of the underlying AI program, because this is a rom-com. It needs human elements to get through the screen, to get viewers to actually get into the story, to fall in love with the characters, to laugh along with it, to like it's very human, a rom-com. an action thing where it's just dumb action and there's two bad, like a bad guy and a good guy going up against each other, and he's trying to save his town or something like that, would be so much easier to make. I don't know why they've gone with this.
You're thinking of good romantic comedies, right? Which are few and far between. I'm talking, this is like Hallmark Channel level, Netflix holiday themed movie level. Have you watched any of these? Like, there was some period where, like, every Christmas I like putting like one of these random ones on, like, you know, a country Christmas love story or whatever.
Oh
like
my
the
God.
worst type of movie. Like, it's just so bad that I enjoy watching it, and I never get through it, right? Because it's just so painfully bad. So the fact, so like it's like there's nothing lost in generative AI having a crack at this. I think it's a safe bet because the bar.
But this is so bad though, Costa.
Yeah,
this is, you can't even look at it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's bad.
Oh my God, I'm sending that all to my friends right now.
Yeah, and well, I mean, we've been talking about AI for probably too long. Well, let's go to the last AI story.
All right.
Which is Bill Gates worried about AI taking his job.
What does that guy even do?
This is a short one, so yeah, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I'll take it. So this is in the same vein as the implications and societal implications of introducing these extremely powerful tools, whether they are made on copyrighted content or not. Thousands, probably millions of people around the world are rightfully worried about their jobs being taken. We've already seen it in some industries. I think the gaming industry is one where digital artists are getting let go because of these tools. Because it's easier to pay a large language model to, hey, can you create some digital art on this thing? It does it. It's likely free. It does it quickly. It's and then you reduce your artist division by 75%, get the last 25% to touch up the designs. That's easy. That's a no-brainer. And that sucks because there is thousands and thousands of people getting out of a job. Another profession will be coding. I think it was only a few weeks ago the NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang said to, I think it was students at Stanford or some university, to not go into coding because of these large language models. Go into something else. It's coding itself will be eaten by robots making the code for us. Like it's going to become
also, like there's certain things that like good coders like can be like, it's like an art form almost in a way. Like you look at like exceptional programmers versus stock standard stuff, and there's like a major difference. So like that's true in a way, but also there's still going to be a place for coders.
Yeah, he said, I just wanted to make sure I get this right. Jensen spoke at the World Government Summit in Dubai and argued the rapid advancements made by AI learning to code should no longer be a priority for those looking to enter the tech sector. So for those that are already in it, you probably will be safe depending on how you know, good at your job it is, good at your job you are. But for those looking to get in coding, this is Jensen, the $2 trillion man, saying, and he's the one powering this AI thing. Here's what he said: "It's our job to create computing technology such that nobody has to program, and that the programming language is human. Everybody in the world is now a programmer. This is a miracle of artificial intelligence."
This is true in a way, right? So if you know anything about programming, it's essentially like an it's like an interface. So like programming at its most primitive level was like hex based and really primitive machine code. So like machine coding, like it's basically you're talking to the CPU almost like at a BIOS level, or like before the system boots up, like machine programming. And then you had all these like programming languages that have emerged over the years, you know, like C and Python, like old ones, and then more modern stuff like Java and JavaScript.
Yeah.
And they're progressively getting more powerful, but they're progressively getting more higher level in terms of getting close to human language, or like the way that you would code is, you know, like you would program in that language, but then it gets compiled into machine language. So like Jensen isn't wrong, right? So it's basically, well, like instead of having to learn JavaScript or whatever, it's like now it's a very basic thing where it's like the interface is like you're saying, basically just like making it like a AI input, or like a language, just normal speaking input, and then that gets translated into code, which then gets compiled into machine code, which is then it runs, whatever. Because it's just it's just adding like another layer. It's not like it's not even a radical idea, because it's essentially programming now. For most people is scripting, right? And scripting is a more basic level of programming. You don't have to know how a chip works or how memory works, because like programming at voltages,
etc.
is like you're coding things to go in a specific memory slot, and you know, like it's you're addressing like a CPU fucking core or something like that. You know, it gets way too hardcore. Like and there's no need to know how that works. So it isn't a I guess it makes sense.
It is. It's even worrying people like Bill Gates now, which is I think is funny that he is worried, because he's worth billions of dollars. But nevertheless, he is worried. So in a recent interview on his own podcast, I just want to make sure I get his name right here. He sat down with OpenAI CEO Sam Altman on the Unconfuse Me with Bill Gates podcast. In which he said that he was initially skeptical about AI and he didn't believe it would advance as quickly as it has. More specifically, Gates said he didn't, quote, expect ChatGPT to get so good, end quote. And then he was joking about his job being taken, but, you know, there is a sentiment of truth to what he is saying here. Here's what he said. I get a lot of excitement that, hey, I'm good at working on malaria and malaria eradication and getting smart people and applying resources to that. When the machine says to me, Bill, go play pickleball, I've got malaria eradication. You're just a slow thinker. Then it is a philosophically confusing thing.
Yeah, which is a pretty powerful statement, because basically what he's saying is I can do this, right?
Yeah.
Like, but if the AI can do it in a second, or it takes me like a whole day to do something, like, is there value? Like is there a value in that?
He becomes obsolete.
Yeah, but not necessarily that. But then, and then if AI can do it and you don't have to do it, then it becomes a case of, well, what's the reward? Like, where's the satisfaction? Where's the what's the like a reason for doing anything? Like, it's like, or like even like a creative endeavor. It's like, well, you're an artist, right? You're getting paid pittances now because you're just basically putting prompts into an AI generator because you know how to describe an image technically and create good things. Or you could do that for 5 minutes, or you could spend 3 hours drawing it yourself. So like, if the fulfillment is gone, like, feeling like you're contributing something, or you're being creative, or you're being a good thinker, or or eradicating malaria or whatever, like you're doing it for the betterment of humanity or whatever, but at the same time it's a fulfilling thing. Or if you take that out of the equation, then what's the point of doing anything? And that's, it tarnishes the pursuit. That's where it becomes a philosophical thing. It's like, if AI can do absolutely everything, what's the point of doing anything? And that's when you get into Disney's WALL-E, far future, where people are just sitting on their chairs eating and consuming media and not doing absolutely anything. And it's a comedic thing, but it's like, well, if that was like a thing, like, oh, well, if robots do everything, then why are we even here?
Yeah,
And
100%.
that's a philosophical thing. That's where it's like, he says it's philosophically confusing, and it's
Yeah.
accurate, because it's like, well,
It is.
it's like, you know, because it's like, you know, what's existence if you're just consuming?
Yeah. We should wrap up the AI corner of this episode, but I want to wrap up with a bit of humor. So I just sent that trailer to my best mate that we avidly discuss movies.
Next Stop Paris.
Yeah. And he's like, that's the worst thing I've ever seen. A little less scared of AI movies now, because I had him over and I was showing him all of the Sora videos and stuff like that. And he was freaking out. He's like, they're ruining my movies. They're going to take everything away from me. Like, I'm not going to know what's real and what's not. He's like, I'm going to have to look up for every flick that I watch if it's made with AI or Sora. And then when I see that it's made with AI and Sora, he's like, I'm going to have to knock the score down on it. But he's like, it's the worst thing he's ever seen.
That is like a good example. It's like, you know, if you're worried about AI, well, watch this.
Yeah, that's it. 100%. Let's take a look at ASUS's amazing new 8K. Tell me about this.
So this would be, so it's ASUS's latest ProArt display. If you know the ProArt line, the ProArt line is for professionals and creators. Yeah. And a display for professionals and creators is going to be good for everything, because a professional display is calibrated for realistic color accuracy, natural colors, nothing overly saturated. So if you create something on that display or edit a film or whatever, you know that it's going to be a reference quality. So it's kind of like, you know, if you're using a cheap monitor to do like Photoshop and art, and then you put that out into the world, and then you look at it on another display, and you're like, whoa, that colors are all wrong. It's because your display wasn't good to begin with. So with that out of the way, I think this is an incredible 32-inch display. It's basically an 8K, the world's first 8K HDR mini LED monitor with Lux Pixel technology. So in terms of, it's got 97% of the cinema grade DCI P3 color gamut, which is basically completely, you know, blows away most monitors. It's got 1200 nits peak brightness.
Wow.
But that's not even the impressive part. The impressive part is 1000 nits full screen sustained brightness.
Oh my God.
So like usually when you hear like peak brightness on a display, that means
that's what it can get to
in one specific spot, right? So like, you know, if you're watching or playing a game and there's like a flashlight or a spotlight, then that for that second or an explosion, then that part of the screen can hit that brightness. So this screen can actually hit 1000 nits for the full display and sustain
across the board. Wow.
Which means that if you are like editing a movie in HDR or creating a game with HDR or like HDR mode and calibrating it, then obviously you would need a display like this, because you're getting the absolute best of the best. So it's got like a 4000 zone mini LED backlight. And it's a 32-inch display, 8K resolution, heaps of ports, etc., etc. The only thing is that because they've announced it for professionals, is that there's no info on the refresh rate. So odds are it's basically a 60 hertz display.
Yeah, it would be, right?
Yeah, it would have to be.
8K, it would,
At that
it'd be weird if it was 100. I mean, it wouldn't be weird. I'm currently testing a Dell Ultra Sharp. It is also a professional Ultra Sharp. I just want to get the monitor up here. It's a 5K display, and it does 120.
Yeah, so it will come down whether or not it can do like 4K 120 on the 8K. But the thing is, they've got a 4K new one as well. They've another 32-inch display, and it's OLED, QD OLED, and it's got a peak brightness of 1000 nits with true 10-bit color, which is standard on the latest HD OLED panels. OLED panels are really good as well because of their color accuracy. If they're calibrated well, QD OLED and W OLED. And that's like one of the reasons why they're so good for everything, is that it's, you know, it's different to like, you know, VA panels and IPS panels in terms of color. It's easier, or OLED just naturally can hit like 10-bit color and
Yeah.
and 100%, you know, 120% sRGB like as standard. So yeah, so they've got like a 4K OLED version that's 1000 nits peak brightness, which means it's also a HDR display. The problem with most HDR monitors is that HDR is pretty weak.
Yeah,
just in general,
it
right?
is.
Well, and that just comes down to OLED. Like if you look at TVs, right? You look at Samsung's QLEDs, which we talked about last week in great detail in last week's episode. They're new TVs, right? So like a QLED can get so much brighter than an OLED, and HDR just looks so much more impressive on a brighter display.
Yeah,
it's just a fact. And the problem with
OLED can't get there.
Yeah, like OLED, they kind of made a sacrifice with OLED, is that all the OLED panels now are affordable for PC. Widescreen, ultra wides, more affordable than what they used to be. But what they've done is that they're all now VESA HDR 400 certified.
Certified, yeah.
Which means that it can hit 400 nits of sustained brightness, right? And so and then some of them might say like it can have a peak brightness of XXX, which is regardless. But the sustained brightness is pretty low for HDR. And then the highest ones now you can get a HDR for OLED 600, right?
Oh.
Which is like 600 nits sustained.
Yep.
And those are more impressive. But if you go back to like a year before OLEDs came to PCs in a big way, like more like monitors with like were hitting like HDR 1000 or HDR capable monitors for like the ultimate, you know, high end displays, and that's kind of like gone. So like they're no longer like super bright. So this ASUS OLED with 1000 nits is pretty rare.
Do we have a price for it? No
pricing or availability yet.
Do you want to take a guess? I'm gonna say 2.5.
For the 8K.
Yeah, probably.
Grand.
Yeah,
3-4
US?
$3 grand. Yeah, $3 US. Yeah.
Yeah,
you're
I would say about
like
2.5,
like
3.
it's 1000 nits full screen sustained brightness is not easy to pull off.
No, it's not. And what do you think for the 4K?
It would be cheaper. Yeah, 2.5, and then like 3.5 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, look, if you're a listener and you need a new display,
8K display would be awesome. Yeah,
it would be. 32 inches also perfect for it. I mean, I'd like to see this kind of display in 21:9.
Yeah,
I want to see what they can do there, because I'm thinking about how when I edit videos and I'm in Photoshop and stuff like that, I really appreciate the 21:9 aspect ratio, because I can get that video timeline on the bottom. I can have multiple, even like bring it in a little bit on the side, and I can still have a web browser up on the side there. It's like, it makes me feel a bit more productive. But yeah, no, this is an epic display. I might have to email ASUS, see if they can sort me out.
Dude, like 8K mini LED, but like just that sort of brightness, right? Like, even if you can't see, like it was like at CES like years ago, or probably like it was before the pandemic. I went, it was like 2020 CES.
Yeah,
and Nvidia had they weren't on the show floor. They had like a hotel. Whenever you go up to like some suite, they had like all their tech going. And they had like a bunch of displays. They had like this new display that wasn't out yet. It was HDR 1200 or something like that. It was insane, right? And then they had like it next to like a HDR 400 display. And they had Call of Duty, like whatever the Call of Duty was that year. And there was like a nighttime scene, and they were showing you like we go up and then you can like this building like explodes. On the HDR 400 display, like enabled, and like it exploded. Like, it looked normal, it looked fine. And then on the HDR like 1000 plus, right? It like when the explosion went off, like you almost like felt the heat. It was just so like bright, and like you just like you actually step back because you're like, whoa.
Yeah,
and you're like, I never experienced like that level of, you know, just like
intensity.
like intensity for just like because it is like an explosion in it was like they set up that scene for that impact because it's like, well, you know, like I've never seen an explosion like that. Yeah. So like it's a shame that like that isn't here.
Yeah, that's when I think HDR gets serious when it's over 1,000. Like that's when it's really impressive.
Turn HDR on an OLED display for the most part. I turn it off because I don't think it's required. Like I just But anyway.
Yeah, I turn the brightness up as much as I possibly can. But
OLED panels you run on full brightness unless you're in a super dark room and then you turn it down.
Yeah. What did you want to jump over to next? Did you want to do some game stuff?
Yeah. Let's do some games. Games.
Talk to me about this RTS. I've got a soft spot for RTS games, and Command & Conquer I have played.
Oh, well, this is a weird story because we'll go into like Hellblade after this.
Yeah.
But so basically, there's been a lot of reports, even like Microsoft has come out and like companies are saying like most people aren't playing new games, right? So like the most played games are Fortnite, you know, Apex Legends, Counter-Strike, you know, all these sort of like games,
Battle Royale.
Minecraft, right? So now like the average, so like if you took like the most popular games, they're now like 7+ years old.
Yeah.
The most popular games. And the shift to like live services or like always online and, you know, trying to get people to stay on your game. Like, you know, like Fortnite has seasons, content overload, teams just going all out with new skins and map overhauls, Call of Duty, etc., etc.
Yeah.
The byproduct of that looks to be that people are just playing the same games. Yeah. And which basically means that new games aren't selling as well as they used to. Like brand new games aren't driving the sales. And, you know, like you got anomalies like Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto 5, which continues to sell and be in the top 10 sellers every month. So what was weird is that like in March, so all that has been bubbling to the surface in recent months in terms of like people aren't buying new games as much as they used to. And then you look at all of Europe, the top selling games for March 2024, and 5 of the top 10 are Command & Conquer games for PC. So like we're talking Command & Conquer Red Alert 2, Tiberian Sun, the original Red Alert. And then if you look at the top 20, like another 4 or 5 Command & Conquer games. The top 10 also has Grand Theft Auto 5. It has Rainbow Six Siege from Ubisoft, which is an old game. The only new games or 2024 games are Helldivers 2 from Sony and PlayStation and Dragon's Dogma 2 from Capcom. But also, you know, there's FIFA. FIFA just stays in there, whatever annual version
Europe.
of FIFA. Yeah, it's Europe.
Yeah.
So what's going on? Why are there millions of people playing Command & Conquer all of a sudden? Well, basically what EA did in March, they released all their old Command & Conquer and PC games to Steam. So previously these were locked in the EA Play app.
Yeah.
So basically all the old Command & Conquers, all the old Sim Cities, all the old Sims games, all the old PC games, they just dumped onto Steam and started selling them at a discount. And I remember like, this would have been like 3 or 4 weeks ago, or whatever the case was. Basically a month ago. And I remember like it happened and I'm like, oh, I'm going to buy SimCity 3000. And then like group friend chats on Signal and stuff. It's like, I just bought all these old Command & Conquer games. Like, so I'm like, oh yeah, this is like cool. And then you just see that like heaps of people are doing it. Like they just sold like gangbusters, which just shows you that it's kind of like a weird time for the industry where it's like you can release an old game, but then EA is making just as much money re-releasing old games, or, you know, and companies are making money releasing content for existing games.
They need to do Battle for Middle-earth.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
That's a really good RTS.
That's also EA. So if they did Command & Conquer and they saw that it was really popular, I reckon they're going to do Battle for Middle-earth. And I hope they do a remaster for these. Or like a 4K.
Is not on Steam.
Pardon?
It's not on Steam, Battle for Middle-earth.
No. It's on the EA.
It's
EA
on the
Play.
EA app, yeah. They haven't brought it onto Steam yet. So that'll be another one. Like if they release that, then people will buy it and stuff.
Yeah. because that is one of my favorite RTSs of all time. I loved all of those.
Yeah. But it's funny though. Command and Conquer Generals is like more popular than like Nintendo launched a Princess Peach game for the Switch in March, and Command and Conquer, like 5 Command and Conquer games outsold it from like the 1990s, right? This is where you get into the fun facts. And then 2K launched WWE 2K24.
Yeah.
A brand new wrestling game, super popular global sport, WWE, outsold by 7 Command and Conquer games from the late 1990s and early 2000s.
That's so good. I love that they're RTS games as well.
Yeah, and this data includes PC, consoles, Xbox Live, PlayStation Network, and the Nintendo eShop. So this is just Command and Conquer selling on Steam, and this is not just Steam sales. This is everything sales, digital and physical, across all the stores.
Wow. They have to bring Battle for Middle-earth over now.
Yeah.
They have to.
Well, they must see this and go like, oh, I guess we're going to bring every game to Steam.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's so good to see. Did you want to jump over to Hellblade?
Hellblade, yeah.
Okay, so just a quick
best looking Unreal Engine 5 game.
I believe that this is the best looking Unreal Engine 5 game. Do you agree?
I would agree, yeah. And it will be when it launches next month, yeah.
So Digital Foundry, which I also believe is the gold standard for reviewing game technology and hardware, they dive into the nitty gritty. I think we've previously talked about them on the podcast. I'm a massive fan of their channel.
I love watching their videos when they do either retro breakdowns or like, you know, what the engine's doing on console or PC. And I mean, because they have an understanding. They know, like, you get like detailed performance charts and how it runs on this versus that.
Cover it all, and they deemed it the best looking, likely the best looking Unreal Engine 5 game, and they got access to a press demo of the game. I think it was just a video, just a new trailer of some kind. And
people have gone hands on with it, so they would have had access to it.
Okay, cool.
So I think like Polygon and a few of those like publications, it wasn't many, but a few of them have posted like hands-on with Hellblade. And the impression is that it is unbelievably cinematic in terms of how good it looks. Yeah.
Yeah, I cannot wait. I was a massive fan of the first game, and it wasn't because of the visuals. Like, the visuals were fine. They were, you got through it, but that was at the stage when Ninja Theory wasn't purchased by Microsoft.
It came out on PlayStation first. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an indie game, and what they did with the audio was, I've never experienced that in a game before, where they made the experience more auditory than they made the audio experience as important as the gameplay and the mechanics itself. Like, I was just walking through the game and you just hear whispers of like, you're going the wrong way, and the voices they sound from very far away, and then they come up to your up next to your ear. It's just, they actually gave you a warning at the start of the game, like, if you're prone to schizophrenia or something like that, you shouldn't play this game. Which is just a wild warning to put at the start of your game.
To go into the the technical side of it, so basically it uses binaural recording or binaural audio, and what that is that basically, if you, like we're speaking, you use multiple microphones to record something, right? And then that automatically creates a spatial awareness, and then with headphones, basically it creates like a proper 3D stereo effect, and they were using it for the story, and so, like, it just was like this amazing audio experience. But with Hellblade 2, I remember watching like one of the deep dives on, I think it was that Xbox showcase from earlier this year, the Direct or whatever. And their audio people said that they're using the binaural audio system. In the first game, it was used for the voices and to create that sort of like in your ominous head effect.
Yeah.
But this time they're using it for sound effects and music and more things. So they've gone all in on the audio. So not only is this going to look amazing? Like the Unreal Engine 5 stuff that it's doing. It was one of the very first Unreal Engine 5 games. It was announced. It's actually the very first Xbox Series X game announced in 2019 or something.
Yeah,
like
19, yeah.
Yeah. So it's been developed for a while, right? But it's actually going to be, so it's not only going to look amazing, but it's going to break new ground with the audio as well.
Yeah. We should talk about more of the graphics here. So Microsoft and Ninja Theory have made some concessions to make it as cinematic as possible. It is, according to Digital Foundry, it is going to be extremely demanding on the Xbox Series X, and probably one of the most demanding pieces of PC software we've seen so far this generation. And that is a quote from them. It's going to be capped at 30 FPS. I'm not sure if it's going to be capped on PC. I'm guessing not, but
it
at
would
least
be
on
weird for them to, like,
it would be bizarre,
like to have a PC game launch with like
at
30
30
FPS cap in this year. No chance.
Yeah, I would be so upset if it did that. I can understand for the Xbox Series X, and I know last episode I was yelling about 30 FPS for Rockstar.
Yeah,
I believe,
I know you're like,
no, but that isn't a cinematic game. And
yeah.
there's going to be 8 hours of gameplay for Hellblade 2. And Ninja Theory isn't making $200 million a quarter. So, you know.
So there's also like, I was reading some of like the hands-on stuff. So like people were saying that the action is like really different to what normal games do, because they've redone the action. Is that like the actual camera is like really close, but then it's always like moving around. So like it looks really cinematic. So like the action, the bits where you actually like, you know, dodging, blocking, etc., are all shot in a way that looks like a movie. And 30 FPS is like, okay, like it would be great if it was 60, you know, I mean, it goes without saying, but based on like how it's presented, very cinematically, and it will, I think, have borders as well. So it'll be like a widescreen on even on like a 16:9 display.
Yeah.
Is that like they also use like things like motion blur and depth of field. So like if you look at certain games on PC, right? So like let's say Doom 2016. Let's say it runs at 30 FPS on a console. And the way they mitigate, or The Witcher, like the way they can mitigate how that looks bad is by adding
motion blur,
per object motion blur. And it works really well. Like you kind of need it for a 30 FPS game. And then if you jump onto PC and you're running that game at 100 FPS, you would turn off the motion blur because it's not required.
Definitely.
So a 30 FPS game without motion blur, and this will be like a highly cinematic version of motion blur and depth of field and things like that.
Yeah.
It's not going to be as bad as like playing. This is not the same thing as like playing Quake or Apex Legends or Fortnite or Call of Duty at 30 FPS. This is a very different thing.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with that. And also you were talking about the attacks and the camera placement. I think it looks awesome. Yeah, and so cool. Also something that Digital Foundry touched on is that when dodges and your sword hits an enemy, there is that they actually slow down the frames a little bit. Not like the game is consistently running at 30 FPS, but I think they add
it's like
they add more frames.
Motion. Yeah.
So like there is a slow motion kind of effect that happens to again add to the cinematic feel of the game. I think that is an awesome design choice. I hope the combat still, and from what we have seen, it does look fluid. It does look smooth, like you are rolling around and stuff like that. But I also think the slowing down of the rolls, the hits, the dodges, and to all of that will give it more of a punch. Like when you do hit them, then it will be like, it'll feel more of, it'll feel more impactful. It'll feel, again, more cinematic. Instead of it being more like a hack and slashy title where you're just going, just carving through enemies.
Yeah. And like, I think there hasn't been like this sort of like focused cinematic style game, like, you know, like 8-hour cinematic action, but story and character driven. Yeah. A game for like a, something super impressive for like a while. Like if you look at like all the big games from like last year, like Hogwarts Legacy. Sure, it's cinematic, but it's just it's also an open world RPG, right? With like running around doing quests and going to vendors, you know, like all this sort of like game stuff, right? You look at Helldivers, it's just a co-op shooter. I mean, it's obviously a lot more than that, but like, you know, like these aren't like the traditional, like, you know, 8-hour, like this would be like linear, very cinematic, very story driven, very focused combat. Like it's a directed or like a handheld experience in a way where there'll be obviously some exploration, etc., but it's a focused experience, and there hasn't been many of these type of games for a while. And the fact that it looks so good, it's just going to unlock like a new layer for this style of game.
I'm so excited for it. I can't wait. Hellblade 2 launches next month on May 21 on PC and the Xbox Series X and S. Oh, actually, just because we got S there, we're not sure, or at least Digital Foundry isn't sure if the Xbox Series S will take a resolution hit.
It will. I think it'll. I'm assuming it's going to run at sub 1080p.
Yeah, something like that, because this is going to be such a demanding game, and it only makes sense that the less powerful console won't be able to display the full resolution of the game. But yeah, so keep your eyes out for that one. That is, if you're really into movies and you just like a nice, concise, linear story with lots of effort put into the audio side as well, so you can really get immersed. Hellblade 2, that is the next game to play. What else do we have here?
The PS5 Pro specs. We can
through
them again.
Yes, PS5 Pro. Because all of these specs, well, like the main ones, they were previously confirmed when we talked about it on the show from the Tom Henderson article from Insider Gaming?
Yeah, Insider Gaming, yeah.
Yeah, but now The Verge has come out and they've obtained a full list of specs. I'm guessing the same developer document as what Henderson saw. And there is a little bit more specifics that we're rocking with. But what is the same is the GPU is about 45% faster than the standard PS5. The CPU is the same as the PS5, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is Zen 2, AMD Zen 2 architecture.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of old.
Which is kind of old, yes. So the CPU is the same as the PS5, the standard PS5, and that's clocked at 3.5 gigahertz. But the PS5 Pro has a, quote, high frequency mode that increases the clock speeds up to 3.85 gigahertz, 10%. Which is approximately about a 10% increase. That is a bit disappointing. However, there is some more caveats to the Pro side of the PS5 Pro. Memory is increased by 28% to 578 gigabytes a second from a standard PS5's 448 gigabytes a second. These specs were all out in the couple, I would say like a month ago, I would say. But
this puts everything in one thing, so it's good to go through them. Just say like, this is basically confirmed and what you can expect for the PS5 Pro when it launches later this year.
Yep, 100%. That's why I put it into a list, because you know, everyone wrote it into like paragraphs. So I was like, this sucks for the reader. I'm going to put it into a list. Oh yeah, also for all the listeners, head down into the description below if you for any of the news stories that we're talking about today. They're all down there. Now we get into some more of the new stuff, and this will tickle your...
Don't stop there. Go with like the system memory.
Oh,
like,
sorry. Yeah, system memory. Well, that is the new stuff. Yeah, I don't think that was out. System memory increasing from 12.5 gigabytes on the standard PS5 to 13.7 gigabytes on the PS5 Pro. That's new. Slightly bit of an increase. I'm guessing that gives some more wiggle room to developers
for games. Yep.
Yep. Now we're moving into what I think is very interesting and something that we have been talking about in the show for quite some time. It is Sony's new upscaling technology, PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, or PSSR. Now, 2 ms of latency upscaling 1080p image to 4K with 8K being worked on in the background, and there is support of up to 300 tops of 8-bit computation. Now, did you want to talk on that a bit?
Yeah, so basically they're introducing what is essentially their version of DLSS.
Yeah.
Last week we talked about how AMD's FSR is coming to console, and like it's going to be available on PS5 with frame generation and stuff like that starting now. So why would they bother if they with their new stuff if they can just leverage AMD's tech? Well, the reason is that AMD's tech isn't as good as DLSS, and Sony are obviously wanting to have an upscaling process that doesn't degrade the image quality in any noticeable way.
You mean not as good as FSR, right?
Yeah. So the only way to do that is through AI, because Intel's has just updated its XeSS super resolution upscaling on PC, and their new model brings it so close to DLSS that people are saying that, well, okay, so Intel's AI version as well is going to be as good as DLSS any day now.
Wow. Okay.
So PSSR, what it doesn't say here is that odds are it's going to be using an NPU or some sort of AI hardware. And upscaling, the 2 milliseconds of latency is good because it's negligible, the latency.
What I wanted to ask you is, do you know the latency on DLSS or FSR? Is that something that
it's basically it's lower than that. It's basically
lower?
It's near instantaneous.
Okay.
Like it happens so quickly that the latency is negligible, which is why, like, if there's DLSS, you turn it on. Frame gen, you need reflex. So that's when it gets weird, is that like when you add reflex in, that kind of reduces latency as a whole. So like it then, like, latency on PC is a very, very different thing. But like people have measured the DLSS stuff, and the latency is like, you know, like about 1 millisecond or whatever it is.
Okay, so it's barely anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay.
like if they're saying 2 milliseconds of latency upscaling 1080p to 4K, that is really good. That just means that they're targeting a something that FSR isn't quite good at. So like FSR, AMD's FSR, like quality mode. So this is where you get into like why this tech is important. So DLSS on PC at 4K, DLSS performance mode takes a 1080p image and makes it 4K. And you lose some image quality, but it's close enough that the performance, the extra performance that you get is worth it. It doesn't mean that it's going to look like 1080p. So like if DLSS performance or this PSSR is upscaling from 1080p to 4K, and then you go, well, if I just play in 1080p, what's the difference? Well, it looks way better than native 1080p, right? Like this is the whole reason why it's so good. So that means that they're obviously, that sounds to me like that it's using AI if you're going from 1080 to 4K, because that's 8 times the pixel count. Yeah, so 300, so it even mentions here like a neural network is 300 tops of 8-bit computation, which I'm not too sure like what that translates to.
I don't know. I wrote this morning. I'm like, what? I wanted to ask you more about the like tops and 8-bit computation.
Yeah, so that's AI performance. So it is AI hardware. So like tops is how you measure AI performance. But like 300 tops sounds way more impressive than any PC CPU chip at the moment. But that's
okay.
But like it says 8-bit computation. So like I don't know how they measure it on PC. Because they don't really like it. It's not like something that's listed on hardware lists for like it is going to be soon for like, you know, for CPUs and GPUs, like TOPS performance or AI performance is going to be a measurement like a standard, but it's not quite there yet. But this kind of sounds like it's actually a pretty powerful NPU, and what else they're going to use it for, I don't know. But if they're just using it for spectral super resolution currently, then expect it to be impressive. And I don't think they're even going to talk about the technicality or like the technical details of it outside of like how they're marketing it. Like the way they'll market this is 4K 60 with PSSR, 4K gaming, true 4K gaming with PSSR, our new AI tech, right? Like they're not going to say this is what it does in the back end or how it's going from 1080 to 4K. Like they'll have that information available at some point or to press and stuff like that. But this is going to be, by the sound of this description, they're basically going to market the PS5 Pro as a true 4K gaming console.
Yeah. So you don't think, because with the PS5, they actually got, and it's something that I loved, but you know, we're geeks and nerds for numbers. But they got really into the nitty gritty of it with the SSD.
Yes,
so
you
don't think they'll do that, or do you think they'll be more vague?
Actually, no, you're probably right, because the PS5 Pro is going to be targeting hardcore gamers, right?
Professionals, yeah.
This is basically a very niche audience within the PlayStation community that are going to upgrade to a PS5 Pro, or people that love like powerful gaming hardware are going to upgrade. So it's not a mass market machine by any stretch. Or maybe the landscape is a little different because not everyone got their hands on a PS5 Pro because of COVID. So maybe their marketing needs to be a bit more vague to apply to the average gamer that maybe didn't get a PS5. Yeah, I think maybe, yeah. Like what I'm saying is like maybe like the ads for it are just going to be like true 4K gaming, and then they're going to do like technical deep dive.
I hope they do, because I'm going to be sitting there with my foot tapping along.
The other part where it gets interesting is 3 times more powerful ray tracing than standard PS5, and it's it's a weird. I mean, it's an impressive statement, but it's also a incomplete statement. It's like 3 times more powerful. How? Like 3 times more powerful with PSSR versus native PS5. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Let's say the native PS5 with Spider-Man with ray tracing quality mode is running at 4K 30 with some ray tracing, or 1440p, whatever it is. It's running at 4K 30 FPS. And then with the PS5 Pro, now we're running it at 4K 60 or 100, whatever. Like, you know, they can run it like 3 times the frame rate because it's upscaling from 1080p, and then it's using the more powerful GPU. So it's like so it's using like both things. So it's using the AI and it's using a more powerful GPU to deliver 3 times the performance. Or is the GPU using RDNA 4 architecture or some sort of next gen AMD ray tracing compute cores to be able to actually render ray tracing at a 3 times, to be actually deliver 3 times more powerful ray tracing, right? Because like if you look at, you know, the RTX 30 series and then the 40 series, and like for like the RT cores are, you know, 30% more powerful or whatever the case is in just raw performance. You add DLSS 3 into the mix, right? Frame generation, which is exclusive to the thing. And then NVIDIA will tell you, well, guess what? This is now 4 times more powerful. But you're factoring too many things to get to that number. So it's like, where's the 3 times more powerful coming from? And they will explain that, I assume.
Yeah. No, they got to, because you're right. It's too vague. Like, what, 3 times compared to what? Like, well, yeah, obviously compared to the standard PS5,
right.
but like, but what specifically?
Yeah. Like, what's giving you 3 times? Is it just the GPU? Is it just PSSR? Because now with your super resolution, you can upscale 1080p ray tracing to make it 4K, and it looks great.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. This is something that I think is quite interesting. So with games that have a significant graphical enhancements, such as ray tracing, will earn a, quote, PS5 Pro enhanced, end quote, label.
I love these sort of labels. Like
I love these labels.
They had those, like you remember like with the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, and like Xbox One X enhanced.
Yes,
like,
yes.
That and like PS4 Pro enhanced, and that was just like those ones. Those consoles, I think, justified their existence, and I've said this in the past, is because they arrived when 4K TVs took off, and then 1080p consoles. It made sense to upgrade your console to a 4K console.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Pro, I think they 3 times more powerful ray tracing. I think the first batch of PS5 Pro enhanced labeled games will be ray tracing, or that they'll try and sell.
Yeah.
Because ray tracing has been a bit of a flop on consoles, in all honesty, right?
Yeah,
if you look
I agree.
Ray tracing on the Xbox, like Forza has it, like when you're in your showroom mode, or GTA or Gran Turismo has it on PlayStation when you're in the showroom mode. But then if you look at it in game, like in Spider-Man, they added ray traced reflections, but you look at the reflections and they're like a quarter of the detail as the reflections on the PC version of Spider-Man. And on the PC, NVIDIA still kind of is the king when it comes to ray tracing on PC. And you still need a powerful GPU. Like as games are getting more impressive, like if you look at Cyberpunk, right, and you want to play it with ray tracing, like at a minimum, you would need I would say a 3080.
Yeah, definitely.
At a minimum,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
And to get the full experience of really good performance,
really sink your teeth into it,
optimizing the performance, etc., etc. Like on a 4090, you can go wild, but it's you can't get that on console now. And they sold ray tracing as a feature for the PS5 and the Xbox because of at that time, NVIDIA was launching their 30 series, which was their second generation ray tracing, and ray tracing was Cyberpunk, and ray tracing was on the mind of a lot of people. And then AMD added hardware ray tracing, and then these consoles came out, and they're like, ray tracing is going to be coming. And then most console gamers didn't know what it was exactly. Like general gamers, they were told ray tracing is here, but it has kind of fizzled, because the only examples there are a couple of impressive examples on console in some respects, but it's just a step behind where PC is. And so if it's 3 times more powerful, then 3 times more powerful brings it in line with most PC gamers.
Yeah. Yeah. Last one here. We of course got HDR support, and the release date 2024 holiday period. So
yeah,
we're looking at the end of the year sometime. Do you want to?
Yeah, it'll be October,
December?
November.
October,
but it's weird
November.
Though, Sony don't have any first-party games launching this financial year.
Right.
So they're launching a new console with what? And GTA 5 is next year. So
yeah,
at this point, it's now we need to hear from Sony, because it's sure you've got this console, but now they have to show you a reason to get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have to show you something.
100%.
They're obviously retro. Is it going to be enough for them to patch existing games? Is it going to be enough for you to see Spider-Man, or games that are just on PC now, like Horizon
or Helldivers?
Or
Helldivers enhanced, PS5 Pro enhanced. That's not going to move units.
No, what's going to move units is a big holiday
new God
game.
of War.
Yeah, but they don't have a new God of War. They do the old God of War, and then it's not as exciting if you're just upgrading an old game. And the problem is as well is that it's almost like Microsoft has this year on lock when it comes to new big releases. They've got all these games are coming on PC. They've got Hellblade next month. They've got the new Obsidian RPG Avowed. They got Indiana Jones game.
Indiana Jones is what I was going to say. Yes,
this year, and they got whatever else. And then there's third-party games as well. I don't know. Sony always makes games always look good on Sony consoles. They got deals with Capcom and Square Enix and all the EA, all these companies. So, but the problem is Call of Duty, a lot of these, with Microsoft buying Activision, Blizzard, Microsoft own a lot of these studios. So what are they going to do? Call of Duty is going to look best on PlayStation now? Because they've got the Pro. Are they going to add new visual features to the game just for the Pro?
That's still not enough for people to go out and buy the console.
Yeah, I think let's say
they need a big title.
Let's say GTA 5 was launching this December.
Oh my god!
Right, and it's not coming to PC. It's a console exclusive, and next month Sony comes out and they do a full reveal on the PS5 Pro, and they say GTA 6 is going to be a PS5 Pro enhanced game. Pre-orders for the console open tomorrow.
Oh my
Pre-orders
God.
for that console will like break the internet, right?
It would.
Sites would crash. You know, like
Yeah.
in Australia, it's called EB Games, JB Hi-Fi. These are a couple of our retail stores in the US. You know, whatever you have, Best
GameStop.
Buy, GameStop. You know, they would sell it instantly. Like
They
because,
would, yeah, it would
like,
be
because
gone.
if they have like, if they bring in like a guarantee like 1 million pre-orders or whatever they can guarantee to these stores, like it usually isn't that high because they might have like batches or whatever. But let's say they produce 1 million consoles. That globally, or whatever, that would sell out instantly with if GTA 6 was there on day one. But
Easily.
without that, like, is it enough? Like, is it enough just to have a more powerful console? Like, no. Like
No.
the problem with the Xbox One X or the Xbox Series X when it launched, the most powerful gaming console. It's like, yeah, right, that's great. But
Still
all these
didn't
games are on
beat the
PC,
PS5.
but, like, I look at the PS5, they've got God of War, they've got Ratchet and Clank, they've got Horizon Forbidden West,
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man at launch, and you've got Forza. Like, yeah, Forza's a great game, but man, like racing cars is not gonna move.
Yeah,
the
and for
needle.
you to get the full experience is you need to have a wheel.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, you've got like I played like I played most of my Diablo on Xbox.
Yeah.
And I play a lot of games on Xbox, but a lot like it doesn't like it feels almost like a platform like PC now to me, where it's like is like Hellblade will be interesting to play. Like I'll play it on PC obviously because of the performance, and I got a 4090. It just I would feel like I was, you know,
You want to crank the settings.
yeah, like I would feel guilty not using it. You know what I mean? Like if I was playing the game on like a console versus like that's just sitting there, and like you would feel guilty because like other people would pay money to see what it looks like running on a 4090, and we're privileged to be able to do that. So it's always like weird with like Xbox, but I think like, you know, like Hellblade could move the needle a bit for Xbox because it'd be like, oh, this game looks great. Like you can't get it on PlayStation. You know, maybe people would buy a console for it. They'll see it and they'll go, oh, Game Pass, Hellblade, that looks really awesome. I'll buy it for that. Like, but yeah, I don't know. Like I'm rambling, but the PS5 Pro, there will be guaranteed adopters because it's a hardcore machine, and hardcore people
definitely.
buy something. It doesn't even matter if they're going to use it. They'll just buy it.
They will. But yeah, they do need a first-party title of some sort to
They need
actually move the needle. We're getting strapped for time, so I'm just going to blast through the last story here. I think we covered everything. We can end with a fun one. Yep. Okay, cool. So, keeping on to the same GTA 6.
Oh, yep. And I got my fun GTA 6 story will take like 60 seconds as well.
Yeah. So, as you can probably imagine, fans are diving through the trailer, trying to find any more information about what they can expect in the most anticipated game of all time. And the Reddit has put their foot to the floor in trying to find out who is voice acting the two lead protagonists.
That's right.
And we might have found one. So everyone believed and theorized the voice behind Jason would be Troy Baker, who is known for his performances in The Last of Us, Far Cry 4, Bioshock Infinite, Borderlands, Uncharted 4,
Like,
and many other popular...
You hear Troy Baker's voice and you just instantly think like of every video game. Like, oh, this is the video game guy.
I wrote in my article, like, Baker is one of, if not the most decorated voice actor in the video game community, which means it is no surprise that GTA fans have hoped he was behind one of the main protagonists in the most anticipated game of all time. However, Baker came out and confirmed that he was not, it isn't the voice behind Jason, and that he wants all of the credit to go to whoever, he didn't say who it was. But the one word that was said during the trailer that people are theorizing off of, he wants the credit to go to that person. It is not him. Troy Baker is not Jason. However, again, the GTA subreddit, they stop for no one. They found a resume of a New York-based actor named Gregory Connors. On the resume...
What are they doing? Like just going through every database of every actor?
Who knows what they're doing? They don't stop for anybody, Costa. We're talking about the GTA subreddit here. On the resume was a credit for a lead role in a Rockstar game set to release in 2025. Notably, after the Reddit post, Connors removed the lead credit from his resume, leading fans to believe he is definitely involved in the project somehow. So I added a little video. I found Gregory Connor's YouTube channel where he's made some short films and stuff like that. They're actually quite cool. And just the comments on these videos is just like, found you. People calling him Jason. Hi, Jason. And I should say Rockstar hasn't officially revealed the cast list for the game, so take all this information with a grain of salt. It is, they're subject to changes. It is, yeah. So yeah, do your GTA story and then we can wrap this one up here.
Have we watched the GTA 6 trailer? A bunch. The trailer is currently sitting on 185 million views on YouTube. It's on track for a 2025 release on PlayStation, Xbox Series X. And the game is set in Vice City, which is GTA's version of Miami and Florida. And it stars a male and female protagonist. So there's a YouTuber called Andrew Levitt, who has done like recreations of video games, live action. So basically him and his filmmaking partner, I believe, they went to Florida, Miami, and they went there with the sole purpose of creating a shot-for-shot remake of the GTA 6 trailer. They succeeded. If you watch the video, check the show notes. If you're on YouTube, we'll have them running. Basically, yeah, so they include all like stand-ins and actors for the characters that you see in the trailer as well. And he posted a making of video. So basically, they traveled to Miami and they tracked down every location from the trailer to capture the same scenes in real life. Out of the 46 shots they could recreate, 8 were inspired by real life incidents, which is things like the, when the trailer came out, all the real world things that they were depicted in it, like, the Florida Joker, the people twerking on top of the car, like, the social media thingos. So this shot-for-shot remake finds those original footage that Rockstar parodied or satirized and put this in this shot-for-shot remake. But what's awesome is that they were actually located the exact buildings seen in the GTA 6 trailer, and they were able to line up the shots perfectly with drones. If you watch the making of, like, he shows how like the drones took took a few goes to get like the drones to line up perfectly and for the camera to move at the same speed as the trailer. They found, like, if you look at the beach, like they found the exact like section of the beach with that beach shot seen in the GTA 6 trailer. Like there's this yellow apartment building, same skyscrapers. So it just shows you like how much detail Rockstar put in their open worlds. They found, what's actually hilarious is that there's a scene in a strip club, and in the GTA 6 trailer, right? And there's like, strippers dancing and just the club just going wild. And then like in the making of video, like he shows like when they went to the strip club, it was like empty, but it's the exact same strip club, but just like same stage, same lighting, same color and everything. Like, so like Rockstar went to the extent of like, recreating specific nightclubs, specific streets and things like that in the game. So yeah, so like this shot-for-shot remake of the trailer. I'm looking at the video now. It looks
awesome.
Yeah, it's impressive for how accurate it is, and it's accurate because Rockstar go to the extent of including real world elements, or it's Vice City, but it's Miami, right?
Yeah. Nah, that is awesome. Wow, that is a very cool artistic pursuit to be able to do this.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah,
and it does highlight. Like, you're right. It highlights the level of detail that Rockstar are going into.
And also as well, it wasn't like a case of them just like doing it in like an afternoon or whatever. Like like it shows you like in the trailer, there's one shot for like 1 second of like an aerial shot of like a car doing like a donut in one of the streets of Miami, like an empty street, and the car's like doing like a donut. So to recreate that shot, they found that street or whatever, and then waited till like, you know, it was quiet at night, hired a car, get the drone up, and then do like the donut for that 1 second, you know, like, you know, like, so every shot was like, they went to the detail of, it's impressive. Like, you know,
it is
it's
very
almost
impressive.
like, it's like one of those things where it's like, you know, like what's the point? Like, why would you do it? But the fact that you did it is just impressive. It's like, yeah, there needs to be a reason. The reason is
because it's awesome.
Exactly.
That's it. And we should end on that. Thank you very much for listening to this AI powered episode of the TT show. As we've mentioned previously, all of the links for all the stories we've talked about are in the description below. If you're on the YouTube, you can listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you can find your podcasts. And if you're listening on audio, go head over to the YouTube and you can see all of the beautiful faces and all of the stuff that we put up on screen. Thank you very much for listening. Do you have anything to sign this episode off with, Costa?
No. Maybe start watching Fallout, the TV show, and we'll talk about it next week.
Yes, I'll see if I've got time tonight to chuck on an episode. All right, no worries. Thank you very much. See you guys.